Hello there, and welcome back to the Agostinho ZINGA show with your host Agostinho ZINGA, and this is episode number 652. I'm starting over my words, even though I'm drinking a massive jar of cold brew coffee. As you can see via the camera, if you're not watching via the camera, you listen via the audio, you'll just hear the clink. That is a coffee that I'm drinking, and it's absolutely tasty, absolutely scrumptious, and it's getting me going where I need to be. But for whatever reason, I couldn't get my words out because sometimes I can be a little bit, quote unquote, R worded. But I'm happy to be back here, back in the hot seat with you guys again, and I hope you are doing well wherever this pod may find you. I hope you are doing splendid. I've had a little bit of not a realization, but I've come to some level of acceptance. I think I had a bit of a heavy session in the gym the other day, and I was thinking to myself, you know what? I actually don't mind these guys who just like sit on machines and occupy them and be on their phone all day, checking social media, being on YouTube, responding back to text messages, trying to line up booty calls, whatever they're doing on there, or just playing computer games on their mobile phones. Whatever it is they're doing, I kind of don't mind it. There was a part of me before they used to get really annoyed with people just occupying spaces and just taking up room and not doing workouts by being on their phone. But having thought about it, especially when you think about safe spaces, especially for men like myself, right? Hetero men, there's not many safe spaces out there where you can just be a guy, grunt, walk around with your chest up and essentially be your fully realized alpha toxic male self. There's not many places, not very platforms that really encourage that. You kind of taught to kind of hide, to kind of cower away in the corner. But at least when you're in a gym somewhere, hunched over on the machine, looking at your smartphone, right? And every time someone asks you, hey, can I use it? You're like, yeah, no, 2 minutes, two sets. That's actually good. That's actually good for the male species. That actually gives us a place to kind of occupy in the world, to feel like we're somewhat useful. That's the one thing a man doesn't want. A man never wants to feel non-useful. A man wants to always feel useful. And when you're sitting down on the phone in the gym, you feel useful. You feel like you have a purpose because you got up from your house to go to the gym in the first place. So it's great. And I realized also in my area, because I live in a hood and I live in a kind of, rough part of town, aka ends, what I realized is that when I was younger, I used to always go to the library. Like I used to be in a library all the time, hashtag nerd alert, but I used to love just going to the library. I'd be reading books, I'd be checking out, encyclopedias, you know, comic books if sometimes would be there, newspapers, sports magazines and whatnot. I just like to be in there all the time, and part of the reason was also because they had the internet, right? So you could use the flipping shared computers there. I think you had sessions up to like 2 hours, and then you have to have a break in between. You wait around and then jump on another computer again. It was quite fun to do that, do a bit of hacking, jump on there, log on with the admin stuff, mess things around, put signs and words up on the flipping LED screens around the library and whatnot. It was quite fun to mess about, but for the most part, I did it all, or we used to do it all back in the day, just to kind of occupy time because there was nothing else to do. You couldn't really go to people's houses that much. Staying outdoors kind of got boring after a while, especially if you weren't playing football or anything. So if you went somewhere to just hang out that wasn't at home, you just go to the library and be there usually until it closed. They literally have to kick you out and then you finally go. And I think the adult version of that, especially in ends, is to go to the gym. That's the adult version of the same thing. Just to sit on your phone in the gym and just be staring into the void. Whether it's in your phone, whether it's other people, it's pretty interesting. But I'd imagine for the opposite sex who are working out, especially, because a lot of girls find, especially girls that kind of go to the gym new or kind of new to gym life and whatnot, imagine how awkward, imagine how uncomfortable it must make them feel when they're sat in a gym. No, when they're working out in the gym for the first time and they see all these guys just on their phone, or guys that look like they're staring at them but they're not really, because guys do that a lot. I know I do. You just stare off into the distance. You're not really looking at anybody. You're just kind of moving your eyes around the space that you're in. But I imagine I can understand how weird it must be and how awkward it must feel for a girl when it's the first time you've been to the gym and you go in there and it's just like an army of guys on on machines staring out into the void, staring at you. Sometimes you must be like, oh my days. Oh my days. What's going on here? So I can definitely understand how that happens to some people. But hey, what can you do? What can you do? Apart from that, all things have been good on my end. I can't really complain. I don't really have many outgoing occasions planned. There is a little spicy open deck session happening on Friday, which I'll probably end up going to. It's at this club called Studio 29. No, is it Studio 924 or something like that? It doesn't matter. I know where it is. It's just quite near where I live, and they're having this kind of open decks kind of competition thing, sort of like an X Factor audition where you go, and I think there's like 6 slots for 45 minutes each, and you get opportunity to basically play, and if you're impressed, you can definitely, then you end up getting booked for a party they've got coming up, and I might end up doing it. At the moment I'm not really promoting, I'm not really putting myself out there to kind of get booked in place. I'm not really sending people mixes or emailing clubs and stuff, but of course if stuff comes over my kind of inbox, I'll definitely take it. But it's be an opportunity just to kind of get around those guys and just see what the vibe is, see what people are saying. So I may actually try my hand at that. And also the good thing about it is that it's house, so I can maybe mix things up a bit, because I usually play techno, I usually play a lot of disco stuff, but it's been a long time since I played like a proper house set. So I'm gonna get all that stuff ready, put together a 45-minute mix for myself, just for myself, self enjoyment, and then just see what the vibe is saying in it, and kind of see if I can kind of go out there and impress some people. And if not, at least I get an opportunity to play on a sound system that's loud and whatnot, semi in a sort of club and whatnot, and have a bit of fun. So that's what I'm looking forward to, that one. But apart from that, I'm keeping it rather clean, rather tight, no messing about and all that malarkey, so it should be pretty decent. But anyway, enough about me. Let's jump into some topics of the day that I thought were interesting, in a cultural commentary type of way. Number one thing I wanted to quickly mention, this is twofold. Number one was this picture that I recently saw of Pharrell Williams at the Louis Vuitton show. And this was at the women's show, right? The show which is which is directed by Nicolas Ghesquière, famously of Balenciaga, prior is now Louis Vuitton Women's, and obviously Pharrell was there to kind of support his quote unquote label mate, and he was dressed to the nines, right? And he had this amazing, I'm not too sure if it's as part of his up and coming collection, but he had an amazing M65 Louis Vuitton version that's sort of made in this weird velvet plush velvety type material, in this lovely olive green with the Louis Vuitton emblem kind of stowed in to the top of it, and then you got this really nice collar that looks like it's pile, like white mink or something. I don't know if this this is meant to be a Dalmatian print or just buttons on it, but this is a really interesting and luxurious way to kind of update a kind of a staple item in most guys' wardrobe, to have like an M65. I know I've got a few of them, and they're usually jacket types that a lot of brands kind of use as basis to kind of work from and whatnot over the years. But to take this and kind of do it in a Louis Vuitton type of fashion is really, really nice. So I'm curious to know if this is part of his new collection. He's also been wearing this hat that he's been wearing, this little Joe Rogan rascal hat he's got on. He's been having that for a while, and it's obviously Louis Vuitton printed also. And then I'm not too sure about the jeans or the trainers, but they maybe are part of his new collection. I'm not really too sure. He's wearing a lot of these kind of bootcut style jeans going forward, so this might be a sneak peek of what we might see Pharrell be presenting when he eventually does debut for Louis Vuitton Men's, I think in June or July. I'm not really too sure, I forgot which one it was. But this is twofold. The other thing I was thinking about this was this: he's starting to look his age now, and this is a picture of Pharrell Williams at the same, I think this is at the after party for the same event, I'm pretty sure, and he's standing next to Zendaya, and obviously Zendaya looks fantastic in what she's got on, but if you go closer to Pharrell, in the face especially, he's starting to look his age. And I'm not too sure if this is to do with the fact that he's got stress now, because I said before, part of the reason why I'm not sold on Pharrell maybe doing a good job at Louis Vuitton Men's is that, number one, I think he's more of a tastemaker than he is a designer. And I think that's not a bad thing, but I just think going from being able to have good taste and be able to buy cool and interesting things is one thing, and then going to design a whole collection is another thing. And I also think his strength, in my opinion, I think his one strength that he has in design is that most of the stuff he's done has really been small. It's been like capsule collections. I think of the stuff that he did with Montclair, the bulletproof vest. I think even stuff that he did early on with Billionaire Boys Club, which at the start was kind of co-founded by him, Nigo and Skate Thing. It wasn't only him doing Billionaire Boys Club, which is why the early versions of Billionaire Boys Club and the ice cream shoes were so good compared to what we see now, because he doesn't have that sort of help anymore. But those things were really nice, and other little things he's done little collaborations here and there, little capsule collections. Those things have been really good, I think so. But whenever he's been asked to build out a full line, it's kind of flatter to deceive in my opinion. So it's going to be a lot to take somebody that's a tastemaker and that's good at doing collaborations to suddenly fill out an entire collection of clothes, which is going to be probably over 50 looks, maybe more items in the shop, maybe more bags and accessories and whatnot. It's going to be crazy. So I was thinking, looking at this picture, this may be evidence of how stressed he must be to do this job. Or it just might be him just getting older and the years just kind of finally cracking, because for the longest time, Pharrell's looked flipping 25, right? For basically the last 15 years. And sometimes, you know, Father Time just does catch up on you. But it'll be interesting to me when he does finally debut his collection in Paris Fashion Week. If one thing happens, if we see an amazing collection from Pharrell Louis Vuitton, what we will know then is that this whole mystique about this whole fashion thing being hard, about the mercurial one person leading something, all this whatever nonsense we kind of get peddled by media and by brands is completely kaput. If Pharrell is able to step in there with limited experience and smash it out the park on the first try, we will know that there's a system actually behind these things that if you just kind of, you know, plug yourself into and you're willing to kind of work with people and kind of lower your ego somewhat and receive assistance and input, you can actually put together a banging collection. We really see what Gucci are doing. Gucci put together two solid collections after Alessandro Michele got fired with no quote unquote leader that have been crazy good, like just as good as anything you would have seen from Michele before. So if Pharrell does smash it first time, then we know that there's a system in place that can kind of facilitate anybody to do a good job. So the idea that you have to be someone that goes to a fashion school, you have to be somebody who has this level of experience is completely gone. Because what you can do going forward, because this is an experiment, other groups or other brands or other houses can look at it and say, you know what, this guy's cool. Like for instance, imagine Tyler the Creator, imagine ASAP Rocky. Like, what's stopping, you know, a brand like Lacoste, for instance, deciding, hey, we're gonna give the creative director role to Tyler the Creator. We're gonna give the creative director role to flipping Rocky to do. If they're popular, they've already got an inbuilt crowd. They're already kind of cool. They've got that level of taste making and whatever, and the ability to kind of make cool products. Just give them the ability to make more of it, and with, you know, support around them, and they're probably gonna smash it. That's what you're probably gonna see there. But I'm still a bit dubious. But also, this also, like I said, could be the effects of the Fashion Week already catching up on him. Do you know what I mean? He's going to have to design, if I'm not mistaken, 3 to 4 collections a year, maybe. No, he's going to have to show 3 to 4 things a year or something along those kind of lines, or maybe in a span of like 18 months. It's pretty crazy, the calendar. So to go from making beats and doing your collaborations and whatnot and launching your cream to suddenly be churning out, like, you know, spring, fall resort in collaborations in between is going to be a lot to do in one go. But I'm eager to see how he does attack it. But it is crazy to see that finally the great Pharrell Williams is finally starting to age now. He's finally starting to age. Father Time catches up on us all, unfortunately. Then quickly, I also want to mention this regarding Supreme dropping a new North Face collaboration. I've been pretty happy and impressed with their recent ones. I think there was a period of time where it felt like they were all kind of duds. Maybe it was like a 2-3 year period. I didn't really like any of the Supreme collaborations with North Face, but I feel like in recent years they've slowly kind of come back to their level where they always were at in general. And this is obviously no flipping example. This is probably this is no exception. That's what I was gonna say. I'm talking way too fast here. This is probably no exception. So we've got here classic Nupsi, which I really do like the look of, with this print on the outside, which kind of makes it look like it's been crinkled or something. And it comes in a red and a yellow, as you can see here, in purple, and is that a black? I think that's a black, right? Is that a black that kid's got on? Yeah, black. So it comes in 4 colorways, and then obviously you got another jacket here also, which I've never really been a fan of this type of jacket, to be fair. And then you got the pants, which I'd never wear also, even the beanie or the sweatpants. I like that t-shirt, it's pretty nice. The gloves are pretty decent. The backpacks are always solid. But yeah, the print on the jacket I really do like, to be honest. It kind of gives it that weird crinkled plastic cling thingy type of look, and I'm not really mad at that at all. I also like the little addition of the Supreme label here towards the end here. The little red tab there looks pretty decent. I like how they've pinched the jacket actually on the product shot. There's these little details that they do, Supreme, which kind of do really well, like really clean classic product shots, or maybe North Face, whoever did it, and just pulling the drawstrings here just to kind of give this a little bit of a pinched look on the inside. Really, really nice. I like that. Then obviously looks a bit different here, innit? I think they've changed it slightly as well, the Nuptse. Maybe it's a different model, but there's no. Usually Nuptses have like a little flap here that conceals the zip. So just have the zips exposed. I'm not really too fond of the zips exposed, to be fair. I kind of like it when it looks kind of clean and plush, but whatever. I'm just nitpicking there. As you can see, nice print on it. It comes in red and black. For me, the probably standout colorway I'd probably get in this would probably be yellow. Yellow or red will be probably nice, even maybe purple. But it's just to kind of make it stand out. There might be good options. The what you call it, the shell jacket, I'm not really too fond of, to be fair. I'm sure it is the material, right? It's not. It's just a print. It's sure it's not the. It's not the. It's not definitely crinkled. I'm pretty sure it's a print that makes it look that way. But yeah, I do like the pinch. The strip jacket's fine. The trousers are cool, but I'm never wearing North Face trousers. The same way I'm never wearing North Face trainers and stuff. That's just never happening. The long sleeve is pretty decent. Also, the shorts are very cozy. Really, really nice. The shorts. I'm not mad at the shorts at all. These will look good as a pair of ACGs or whatnot. You got me missing on that one. Sleeveless hoodies, I think, are horrible. Whenever I see a sleeveless hoodie, the first thing I think of is Vin Diesel. That's the first person I think of when I see a sleeveless hoodie. Vin Diesel, or like Dwayne The Rock Johnson doing those pictures when he's in the gym. Do you know what I mean? Like when he's taking those selfies. Like I'm not about that sleeveless hoodie life, man. That's just wild to me personally. Like if you want a sleeveless hoodie, just wear a t-shirt. You know, it's like I don't understand it in the slightest. I know Kanye had a sleeveless hoodie era and stuff. I didn't get that with like zips on the side. It's like, what? The t-shirt's okay. Again, not wearing a North Face t-shirt. The hat is really nice. I'm definitely gonna wear that. This definitely is a hat you're probably gonna see a few rappers donning very, very soon. And the gloves are pretty okay, and the backpack is really nice too. It would have been nice if they would have done one of those tubular backpacks. I love those little. I don't know if they've got one. Maybe they have. No, they don't. They've just got a regular backpack. But I like those little North Face backpacks that are like tubular. They're really nice, and you can. And I think there's a version that you can just carry as a little bag, and there's one you can carry as a backpack. I like them. They're kind of really adaptable and useful. But yeah, this looks pretty cool. I do like the look of it. So big up Supreme for this. Just quickly read through the information. It says, yes, Supreme has worked with North Face for a new new collection of Spring 2023. The collection consists of a trompe lioli printed tape seamed seal jacket, Nuptse jacket, and a Montana mitt and a Borealis backpack, as well as a hooded sweatshirt, sweatpant, fleece pullover, and fleece short and t-shirt and fleece beanie. The printed tape seal jacket and a mountain parka feature water-resistant recycling poly shell. The printed Nuptse features water-resistant breathable poly ripstop with a printed graphic and a 700 feel down insulated interior. The high ply fleece pullover and short and beanie, high power fleece with embroidered logos, and a convertible hooded sweatshirt and sweatpant feature a brushed back fleece with zip off sleeves and lower legs. It's going to be available on March 9th on Thursday. The only thing I'd say, just as a quick note, thinking about it, the only thing that might be a bit of a concern, I know this is like a printed print, right? That's meant to look crinkled, like cling film, like I said, or like water or something. I don't know what else it's meant to be. But the only thing I'd have a concern about it is maybe this washing out over time. Like, do you know what I mean? The print may be like going weird and washing out, unless it's not printed, unless it's kind of, you know what I mean? Unless it's not digital printed, unless it's kind of been dyed on the fabric or something before they put it together. I'm not really too sure. But either way, that'll be the only concern I have about it. Like how would this last in the wash? Because I'm not really a fan of like taking all my streetwear clothes to the dry cleaners. There was a time when I did that, but nowadays I just chuck myself in my regular washing machine. So, you know, I'm not too sure how this would handle, you know, being put in with regular flipping gym clothes and stuff in the washing machine. You never know. But yeah, big up that jacket coming out Thursday. If you want it, you know where to go. If you want it, you know where to go. Then quickly want to mention this, because I think this is pretty cool news, and again it kind of goes on to kind of cement Kanye West's legacy out here in terms of being incredibly influential and really kind of cultivating people around him who go on to really sort of affect culture in a big way. Another person who's got a really big job within that Kanye circle, or former friend of Kanye, is Don C. it's been announced that Don C is now the new creative director of Mitchell Ness. And it says here, of course, Don C shows up to chat wearing a Bulls jersey. The 46-year-old Chicago native and designer behind the Just Don brand is newly appointed creative director for the premium goods for Mitchell Ness, the long-time purveyor of throwback gear. But he's also a long history of tapping into the power of nostalgia. In the 90s, that meant selling M&M throwbacks out of his trunk. In 2011, that meant releasing a series of mega covetable python trim snapback hats. Most recently, he's worked as creative strategist and design director for his favorite team, the Bulls. So yeah, the guy knows jersey. So yeah, this guy is obviously, crazy about basketball, crazy about sports in general, but especially when it comes to like throwback jerseys. And Don C, for a while, especially with his Just On brand, those snapbacks were doing bits in the streets. People were absolutely going crazy for those flipping snapbacks. They were reselling them. They're already pricey in terms of retail, and then people were reselling them and going crazy for a while. Then of course he put out the shorts, he had jerseys and whatnot. He's got trainers now. Of course, I said before, like he's consulting with the Bulls, just really plugged into basketball culture. And if you go even back before that, when he was still cool with Kanye, one of the things that they did, which was pretty cool, was that for a while, even though you could probably credit two people, you could probably credit Kanye's crew and Nike Talk, but they were really responsible for the surge and popularity of like retro Jordans. And maybe for a period you can maybe say like all those kids like Ian Connor and stuff later after the fact, but I felt like Nike Talk and Kanye's crew, like Virgil at the time, R.I.P. Kanye, Don C and stuff, they were always walking around wearing retro Jordans, even someone like Fearless London, and they kind of made those really, really, really desirable over time, to the point where people were going back and buying Jordans from like the 80s and wearing them until the sole crumpled, or then doing sole swaps on them and whatnot. So it's quite cool to see him still kind of involved in that going forward. And for Kanye's legacy also, it's quite amazing that everybody around him, that even people that were carrying his book bags, like cutting his hair, somebody like an IBN Jasper, they've all gone on to do amazing things from just being around him. Think about Heron Preston, you think about Matthew M. Williams, you think about, of course, Virgil, R.I.P., you think about Justin Saunders at Jound, Don C, of course. There's just a litany of names of people who have been associated and around Kanye who've just gone on to do crazy, amazing things. And obviously the Don C story is even better because he's someone like me who started off just being like a guy, like a culture kid, I would imagine, and just out there doing amazing, incredible things. And one thing I really like that he mentions here was promoting parties, something that I obviously done in my past as well, that kind of led to this kind of weird space that I'm kind of occupying at the moment. So it says here at the bottom, it says, a question here says, out of all the items you'd run out of a club and show you were promoting back in the day to grab a throwback for an interested buyer, is there one story you love telling? Right, this is kind of one of his origin stories. He says, yeah man, there's so many good ones. I used to promote parties at a club called Biology Bar, and the people I knew had throwbacks in my trunk, so they would call me when they would pull up like, yo Don, what you got in the car so I can look fresh in the club? And I would go there and meet them. There was an artist named Bump J, man. He was on the streets, he was known honestly, and I don't want to put him on blast for being notorious street dude back then, so he didn't know me, and he was like, man, I should rob this dude, he got these jerseys. It was because I knew his blood brother, and then my close friend Abby and Jasper was close to him and he didn't pull it off, but I was putting myself in jeopardy. And I remember being in these kind of positions. Like I legit remember a time when I used to buy like Jordan, not Jordans, but Air Maxes specifically, and like in like a JD Sports, and flip them. I'll be sending those things over to flipping places like Australia and whatnot, because at the time there was a really, really big need for Air Maxes back then, especially classic like Air Max 1s, Air Max 90s and laser blues, infrareds, the sport red Air Max 1s, pine green ones, the blue ones, like just everybody would love them and whatnot. And of course the classic being a couple of few times when I used to queue up and stuff and buying sneakers in particular stores, and then having to meet very sketchy looking guys pulling up in very expensive cars, buying basically the shoes I wanted to sell them cash in hand, was pretty wild a few times that happened. And then to kind of go to that and kind of build up and kind of progress from there. So for him to go from a period of like selling throwback jerseys, customized ones or whatnot, and, out of his trunk, literally outside of clubs, and now suddenly being creative director of Mitchell Ness, must be an amazing time to be alive. So big up what you call it, Don C, for that achievement. It's really cool to see, and I'm eager to see what he does end up creating going forward with Mitchell Ness. I'm really am eager to see what he has going forward. And obviously the promo pictures for it are awesome. You know, him doing it basically like he's in the, what you call it, like he's in the, like he's getting picked. I forgot what it's called in basketball, but I really like how they did the promotion for that also. So big up them for making that work. Big up them for making that work. Then I quick want to mention this. So I've been watching loads of clips online of like Rolling Loud 2023, which has been quite cool to see, but something has left me a bit frustrated, which I mentioned maybe in the previous podcast, was that there is a real lack of artists that perform live, especially the popular ones in hip hop, who perform live without a backing track. They all do what everyone else does, where essentially they perform the same MP3 that you have on your phone, maybe a slightly tweaked live version, but it's got the full vocals on it. And what they do, they probably just lower the mids and the highs so that they can, you know, sound a little bit better as they kind of float on top of it. But essentially, when you're there live, you're listening to like two voices playing in the background fully. And I know some people, I know Kanye specifically has versions of his live songs where he has particular words or particular like hooks, or maybe even like, yeah, particular hooks or particular like ad libs he would leave on the track. So it might be like, or whatever it may be, and then in between, just so he can keep a note of where he's at and stuff. But for the most part, he just raps it straight, like straight into the microphone, no backing track. So I'm curious to know, why don't these artists nowadays do that? I wonder if it's just like a pure laziness type of thing, where some artists just create what they create in the studio. Let's say, for instance, a Future. When he makes a track, he just makes what he makes at that moment. He cuts it all, he records it all at the same time, gets mixed and mastered, and it's done. So there is no kind of raw stem version of the track where you can maybe remove the vocals. It doesn't exist. You'd have to kind of reverse engineer and kind of make it again from scratch and kind of work away that way. But the idea that they've got stems of this track without the vocals just doesn't exist. That might be a thing, or it might just be a thing of like they just can't be bothered, because it would require more work, because you have to go on stage and, you know, basically, you know, be okay to memorize your entire set word for word without the help of the track in the background and whatnot. And sometimes you might lose your timing. You don't like how you sound when you're heavily breathing. But for me, I feel like if I'm paying for a ticket to see someone live, I want to hear them perform live. And one thing that kind of reminded me of this was this clip that was going a little bit viral on my side of Twitter, which features King Cruel performing on performing on Letterman in 2013. This is when he's like a teenager, but I saw him a few years after this when he went to perform at Primavera Festival. And one of the first things I noticed when I saw him at Primavera Festival, because I remember just walking to stage, I think I was walking and he was kind of behind me, no, just, you know, to get to stage, I don't know, it doesn't matter how I got there, but basically I was kind of walking away from the stage to kind of get to the crowd bit, because you have to kind of go around the little thing. And I remember just hearing it as I was walking away, thinking, "Rah, this guy sounds exactly like the MP3, like exactly, like perfect voice to sing live." But just in general, it was just refreshing to hear him sing the same songs that I was banging out in my headphones live. So this is a quick clip of King Cruel performing on Letterman.
Now you search your evening, searching for love alive. Yeah, I think you got in your sights. Easy.
That is like 10 times better than anything you're going to hear at Rolling Loud, unfortunately. And I think it does those guys a real disservice, because everyone booked at Rolling Loud are all the favorites of all the kids. All the kids that go to Rolling Loud, they love every single person that performs there. Those are their favorite artists. Those are the ones they bang out and listen to all the time. So it would be really nice if they could kind of, for a change, you know, just give them a show, put on an actual performance. Because what you see at Rolling Loud with these guys is just they're basically on stage acting like hype men for their own tracks, right? They're not exactly performing their songs at all. They might just say a few words, they might scream something in the case of Playboy Carti, but they're not really performing really. It's kind of annoying to see that, just see them running around on stage and whatnot. So essentially what it turns into is like a weird kind of like musical meet and greet. Like, you just go and see the person live because you want to look at what they look, you want to see what they look like in person, be around other fans, maybe that's also a part of it, maybe that community aspects of it. But you're not really getting a live show. You're just getting, a DJ playing the songs you got on your MP3 and the artists that you love basically screaming over the vocals. But I'd love to see that kind of be improving, because I feel like Rolling Loud, in terms of just an operation, they're probably one of the best out there in terms of how they run that festival. It's run with military precision. They don't let anybody go over their time. If you're late, whatever time you got left, that's why you perform. Some people have already told me in some comments. I mentioned about Lancey Foe, how he only had 7 minutes. People are saying in the comments that he basically got there late. So whatever minutes he had left is what he had to perform. So that's how they deal with stuff, which I love. But I just wish the artists would go a step further and take advantage of how professional and how kind of on it that festival is, and actually give their fans a show. Like, don't just go there and scream over an MP3. That is so dead. Especially if kids are paying like, upwards of £100 or whatnot, $100 to go to those kind of festivals. It just doesn't seem worth it, in my opinion. But hey, what do I know? Next, we've got some other news as well to mention here, or side news for this guy. And, some people may know him from YouTube. I know him from YouTube and obviously from his trainers that he sells. But local YouTube star Omi In A Hellcat has been sentenced to 5.5 years and ordered to forfeit 30 million in large-scale cable piracy case. And this is the guy, of course. I think most of you, if you're not familiar with him, is that kind of fat-looking black dude. But I think he's like, I'm pretty sure he's not even black. I think he's Dominican or something, right? He's Latino. I'm pretty sure. Anyway, but it doesn't matter. He was, if you're not familiar with him, he was kind of in the news because he got basically in trouble with the law because he was selling and slinging these, if I'm not mistaken, these kind of like fire stick type of things, where essentially you could watch anything that you wanted on these kind of sticks. And I guess cable companies and whatnot really weren't having it or happy about it at all, especially because he was making a lot of money and he was really kind of flaunting his wealth online and showing how easy it was to kind of flip these things. And for the most part, from what I heard online, people really enjoyed the things that he sold. Like, it wasn't like he was selling, crappy stuff. It actually worked the way he kind of sold it, and obviously he was reaping the benefits of running a good business. And then he kind of parlayed that to some crypto. He did, of course, did the sneaker stuff, and that kind of went crazy because then he ended up falling out with the guy that he's doing the sneaker stuff with, and then they end up making the same type of bootleg Jordans together, and he end up trying to swindle the guy. Just loads of drama around him. But essentially he's kind of been on social media and in and around it for a long time. But he kind of came across my inbox during the pandemic is when I kind of got exposed to him a lot. It says here, local YouTube star who built a sizable following with slickly produced videos flaunting his fleet of sports cars and luxury cars, his fleet of sport and luxury cars, collection of diamond encrusted bling, and his spacious Swiss borough home, will be forced to give up nearly all of it after he was sentenced to Wednesday to 5.5 years in prison for an illegal business that allowed him to amass those trappings of success. Just go back to his picture. Would you describe this as a McMansion? That's a McMansion, no? That looks like a McMansion to me, that house. It looks McMansion-y. It's kind of sterile. It's big, it's spacious. It looks very luxurious, but, it's kind of sterile. It looks kind of a cookie cutter, like it's been made out of a computer and just kind of plops in the middle of nowhere. I would describe that as a McMansion. You would think so. Maybe, who knows? Bill Omar Carrasquillo, better known to his more than 800,000 online followers as Omi In A Hellcat, pleaded guilty last year to running one of the most brazen and successful cable TV piracy schemes ever prosecuted by the US government. Cable TV companies do not play in it when it comes to their money. They do not play when it comes to their service. Imagine being put in prison for 5.5 years. It's essentially for running like a worse version of torrenting. Crazy. As part of his sentencing on Wednesday, he was ordered to forfeit more than 30 million in assets, nearly 6 million in cash, and cars including Lamborghinis, Porsches, Bentleys, McLarens, and a portfolio of more than a dozen properties he had amassed across Philadelphia and in the suburbs. Wow. This guy did it right, though, to be fair. He made a lot of money, and somehow, instead of just spending it all on Balenciaga, which I guess he did, he also had assets. Like, he had 30 million in assets. Like, and he's not buying these properties in like New York and LA. He's buying them in places like Philadelphia. So I'm assuming he had a lot of properties, maybe even like skyscrapers and shit that he owned. So this guy did it actually the right way. Anyway, it continues. $30 million is a lot of money, but tangible objects aren't everything, says U.S. District Judge Harvey Bartell III, saying in announcing the punishment during the hearing in federal court, you have a large following, and there are many people who think if you can get away with it, they can too. So they're trying to send a message. Carrasquillo, 36, apologized to his family, his employees, and the cable companies he cheated through his business, which illegally sold content hijacked from cable boxes to thousands of online subscribers, paying a fee as low as $15 a month. So he undercut them all, put it all in one handy stick, and they got annoyed. Of course, I really didn't know the significance of this crime until I was picked up. That's not good defense, my guy. I didn't know this is bad. Until it's picked up by the imagine you don't know this is bad. You're making money, more money than you've ever made in your entire life. Your social media is going crazy, and then suddenly you get raided by the FBI. That must be a real big wake up call. He says, I feel like I let everybody down. But while prosecutors described Carrasquillo's crimes, which included counts of conspiracy and copyright infringement, fraud, and money laundering and tax evasion as serious, much of Wednesday's hearing focused on Carrasquillo's remarkable rags to riches story. A product of North Philadelphia, he was raised as North Philadelphia, born and raised, from a playback as well as most of my days. He was raised as one of 38 children. Holy shit. His mother was deported and died of an overdose when he was still a child. Whoa. This is like a true villain story, isn't it? His father dealt drugs and trained Carrasquillo at age 12 to cook crack cocaine. Okay, no wonder he's so smart. No wonder he was able to amass 30 million in flipping assets. This guy is no dummy. Do you know what I mean? He may look like a bit of a dummy, how he kind of goes on, right? He kind of looks like a Teletubby, right? With these jaws and stuff. Looks a bit ridiculous, but he's no dum-dum. That's for sure. It continues here. His mother deported. He ping-ponged between relatives' homes and foster care, and including the stint with with one caretaker who intentionally had him committed to a mental health facility for access to prescription narcotics he could later sell on the streets. Oh my God. Imagine being put in a mental health institute to acquire prescription drugs for your relatives to resell, but you're actually sane. Yay. He spent much of his teenage years and clearly in early 20s out of prison for drug and other offences. Still, his attorney, Dante Mills, told the judge once Carrasquillo swore off that life, he, without school diploma and little financial support, was able to build a multi-million-dollar business based on what at the time was considered cutting-edge technology in the entertainment field. But yeah, he still had the seed money from, a few of those kind of illicit drugs, I'm assuming. But hey, who knows? The company launched in 2016 and known at various points by names like Gears TV, Gears Reloaded, was a leader among so-called illicit IPTV services, a $1 billion a year industry in the United States. It provided subscribers hundreds of on-demand movies and television shows, as well as access to dozens of live cable channels and pay-per-view events at cut-rate pricing. All of it was stolen illegitimately from services like Comcast, Verizon, FiOS, and DirecTV. That's basically why he got nabbed in it. He was dealing with the big boys, like the people behind these things that don't play around. That's why they had to send a message and make it clear that this is not a lick. The service proved wildly successful, attracting more than 100,000 subscribers and amassing more than $34 million in revenue by the time federal investigators shut it down in 2019. Jesus Christ. So in 3.5 years, he made $34 million in revenue. God almighty. He absolutely smashed it. There's something to be said for someone who never had a chance but made for themselves and who did everything in their power not to be the person they were expected to be, Mills said. That's Omar. Despite his guilty plea, Carrasquillo and his lawyer both suggested at various points during Wednesday's proceedings that Gears TV had at least initially operated within a legal grey area. Congress moved last year to more clearly define the types of business Carrasquillo ran as illegal, and Carrasquillo, in videos posted to his YouTube channel over the last year, has argued he'd legally paid for subscriptions to all cable services whose content he accused of pirating. It doesn't work like that. He thought because he paid for it, he could then, sell it as a service to other people. That's not how it works, brother. It's not how it works. In one posted under the title FBI sees everything from me, he likened what he did to inviting friends who don't have cable over to the home and taking up a collection to pay-per-view Nah, come on. That's not the same thing. This is where he's being on purpose facetious because this guy's not a dummy. He's just obviously trying to make sure he can fight his case in that way. I wonder if he's going to make one last video before he goes to prison. He says, I'm guilty of making money, he said in the video. I ain't guilty of nothing else. Prosecutors beg to differ, as Brenda would say. They beg to differ. This was illegal the entire time, says Jason Gull, the senior attorney in the Justice Department's computer crime and intellectual property section. He noted that Carrasquillo had made more money from his operation than virtually every other copyright defendant I've ever seen. I've got a feeling the money is the thing that really pissed people off. The amount of money he's able to amass, the fact that he came from nothing, right? Like really from the mud, not educated in any way, shape or form. And he's able to swindle all of these, really powerful, influential, smart, educated people. And the fact that he was flaunting all online, I think is what really got people under their nerves, which is goes to show like crime usually, if you're willing to kind of be quiet and move in silence and not attract any eyes and ears on you, you can basically get away with a lot. But the moment you start flaunting your stuff and you start making it seem like it's easy, or maybe you even start selling courses about how other people can set up their own IPTV stuff, suddenly the feds are like, no. We can't be having all these poors, climbing up the flipping socioeconomic ladder. We can't be having these poors, pour themselves out from the gutter with these business ideas. No way. Get back in line. It continues. As he stood before the judge on Wednesday, Carrasquillo acknowledged he'd since had a change of heart, one inspired ironically by a television show produced by Disney, a company whose content he has been accused of stealing. Look at the videos. He's a master, innit? This entire time he's been sitting waiting to be sentenced. He's been making hand over fist on YouTube with these videos, right? This video, Omi In A Hellcat is guilty. Look at this. Look at the flipping thumbnail. It's him looking sad with guilty written there with the Department of Justice logo, the judge hammer. He's a funny guy. He described viewing a behind-the-scenes documentary on Pixar and the work of thousands of employees that goes into making each of these animated films. I love this stuff that he does where he tries to pretend like he suddenly seen the light. Thinking about those workers and millions it cost these employees to produce even half an hour television show, he said he realized that he had not committed a victimless crime. He did fight the prosecutor's request that he'd pay nearly 11 million in restitution. So they wanted to forfeit 30 mil and pay 11 mil. Okay, well done for getting out of that one. To the cable companies and an additional 5.7 million to the IRS and unpaid taxes. He swore that once he released from prison, he intended to focus on family and legitimate ventures like his YouTube channel and online marketing business. As Wednesday's hearing concluded, he paused to address the judge. This sentence, he said, saved my life. So 5.5 years is a long time, but also not a long time. But also I'd imagine with somebody like this who's super smart the way he is, this will definitely add to his law, and definitely he'll probably even come out of prison maybe making more money than he did before, because he can show people, look at the journey I'm on, the bounce back. And also you could do that thing on YouTube where someone starts with, there's a lot of guys that do it. I think there's a property developing guy that I remember doing here. I think he's English, who kind of, he goes like, oh, I've only got this amount of money. Like I've got $100. How do I get on a property ladder? And then he kind of shows you how to do certain things and whatnot. So he can definitely start that. He can say, look, I've got a criminal record. I'm a registered felon. And he comes out of jail and boom, he kind of shows you how to kind of progress to kind of go from zero, quote unquote, all the way to a certain amount of money. So he'll probably end up making more money than he did before. All being said, but he has to sit down for 5.5 years, and he also might lose a bunch of weight. That might be good. I mean, he might come out looking like Gucci Mane, so that might also add to his, to be able to for the ability of kind of being able to market himself better out there. But he did share some views about how he felt after coming out of sentencing. So let's see what Omi In A Hellcat has to say after being sentenced to 5.5 years of prison.
All right, guys. So I've been away from social media for a while because this is the moment I've been dreading. Facing 27.5 years. We all know it started at 500.
Wow.
But I just got sentenced today. I feel like the judge was super fair. He heard everyone's testimony about my character, everyone who came to court. The judge ordered me to 66 months in federal prison, which I feel as though it's fair for especially how much money I made. I had to pay 10 point something million in restitution, which they already have, which will be applied to the which they already got the money now, and I got to pay another 5.7 million.
He already had 10.5 million in the bank to pay them for restitution straight off rip. This guy was balling. He had it already on him. He had it. That's why I'm saying that this guy was really smart and not the type of just like to make that kind of money and just blow it on booze and drugs and whatnot. He clearly had a plan because he was able, even though they took away his assets, 30 million of them, right? They probably froze his ability to kind of make any more money on those, even if he was renting them out. But he had already in the bank, 10 mil plus that he could just whack and kind of give up straight away and give it up to kind of maybe add or help to kind of lighten his sentence and whatnot. Jesus, man, how much money did this guy make really, like legitimately? I'm sure the official record books show one thing, but unofficially it must be way more than what's been noted.
In restitution to the IRS. So, I'll be home in the next 2 to 3 years. I hope you guys continue to...
Okay, so it's 5.5 years with good behavior. It'll probably be maybe 2 to 3. Makes sense.
But Reloaded Universe, I got 60 days. So once again, this has been a long time coming. I had a seizure done in 2019. I got charged in 2021. The judge was super lenient but fair, but also didn't want to deter other people from committing the same type of TV piracy that I committed. I was talking everything in detail. I'm coming out with a new YouTube video.
Of course you are.
It'll only be done by Devin Wade, and we'll talk about it. But it's over. I already know what I'm doing. I know what I'm getting. There's no more stress, no more nothing. I know when I come home, everything will be fine. I'm good. 66 months was super fair. And, it sucks for my kids, but I'm happy with it. It's probably a salvation for my fat ass to lose some weight anyway.
Jesus, man. He's really locked in, though. He kind of seems to have a good attitude about the whole thing. And, I didn't actually think about that also, the other bit where he said it's nice just to know what he's doing now going forward, because he had this hanging over his head for the whole time, waiting to be sentenced, not sure what you're going to get. But now he knows exactly how long he's going to be in there for. Restitution's been paid. Basically, he's been sentenced, and all this to do now is just to see it out and make sure he comes out of it on the other side all right. Obviously, it's no walk in the cake to go to prison straight away, but it's still a good kind of resolution to kind of get that all done and out of the way. So yeah, big up Omi In A Hellcat. Hopefully it works out for him and he's able to come out of it on the other side and keep it pushing and keep it pushing. Next, I want to mention this because I thought this was really, really interesting. So I want to say that, I think most of you do agree that the stuff that I do, especially the stuff that I do now here in terms of podcasting, I would say it's definitely one of the hardest jobs in the world, and definitely one of the most dangerous jobs in the world. It's up there with like being a Navy SEAL. It's up there with being a police officer, a fireman. Like, this is the most dangerous job in the world. One of the most dangerous jobs in the world. And if you think I'm lying and you don't believe me why it's completely dangerous, then you definitely haven't seen this video that went viral recently regarding these 2 podcasters who just minding their business, having a chat somewhere in a coffee shop or a restaurant, and out of nowhere a car slams into the window that they're sitting in front of and nearly takes both of them out. By the grace of God, they both kind of escape, without injury, but the entire window that they're sitting in front of is completely collapsed in front of them as they're recording the podcast. And their reaction to it is pretty amazing and telling of the times we're living in. They hardly react. They're kind of in a state of shock, and it kind of just doesn't occur to them exactly what has happened in front of them. So let's play the video of what happened, because I think this is really, really hilarious. And again, reemphasizes my point that podcasting is one of the difficult jobs in the world.
It got so quiet in here. How did I...
Did you see that? Did you see that? The whole car came crashing into them as they're sitting down. The window panes come completely off of the flipping building they're sitting in. Let's just go back one more time.
So quiet in here. How did I...
Car smashes into them. And for some reason, it just stops as it gets right to them, so it doesn't completely, tear through their backs and crush their legs. Somehow they escape completely unharmed. Absolutely insane. Wow.
I think we're fine. I think we got all the audio on there.
Well, What the hell happened?
Holy shit. Oh my god. What the fuck just happened, dude?
So crazy. Anyway, you see that happening. So we kind of scroll down. It says Nathan Reeves and Alexi Reyes. So Alexi Reyes were recording their podcast at a Houston cafe. This isn't a cafe. At the weekend, when in the middle of filming, a black Chevrolet skidded around the corner, slamming into the window behind them. As the car smashed through the window, the two quickly shut up in shocked looks on their faces. It was kind of a fight or flight, and I flew. I got out there, said Reyes, ABC 13 News. I think we're fine. I think we've got all the audio here. Holy shit, oh my God, the person says. We're just talking to the camera, and the car smashed into our backs. He said that luckily nobody in the cafe or in the SUV was injured from the incident. The duo were happy to be still alive and looking forward to recording more podcasts just without the car crashes. We're content creators and artists, so we will not stop. There will be more, hopefully no more car crashes and content. If anything, this is actually good promo for your pod. This is really good promo for your pod, that you were just sitting there minding your business and out of nowhere, a car comes crashing into the cafe that you're sitting down in and nearly takes you out. Like you nearly die, because of the art of podcasting or sitting in front of a microphone talking crap to your best friend in a coffee shop. That was nearly the cause of your death. Look at that. Look at how eerie that picture is of these two guys smiling, minding their business in this coffee shop as the car comes careering into them like that. Absolutely incredible. Really, 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 really wild. And it feels like I've seen way more of these videos recently. And again, I'm sure it's not an American thing, but I've seen a lot more American clips of cars for some reason just smashing into buildings. Like, what is with the driving standards over there in America where people somehow lose control of their car and are able to kind of career and kind of skid and slide and smash into buildings and basically take people out on the inside? Or I saw this really sad clip of, I think, this guy that was or some person was in the police chase, and they were speeding intersection, and then they skid off the curb, smash into a house, and if I'm not mistaken, I think the house collapsed onto the car and collapsed onto the other car he crashed into, and some random person passed away, of course, and the person that was in this speed chase didn't pass away. It seems to always be the case. Whoever's causing a crash never dies. It's always the people that had nothing to do with it. A good point in theory was that horrendous crash that happened in LA, where that lady was speeding through an intersection like super fast, and she crashed and she smashed loads of cars, and a baby died, a family died, like bare people died, but she didn't, even though she was doing like 100 miles per hour down the street or something. It's really unfair how that stuff happens. But again, big up these guys. I'm glad they're okay. Podcasting is one of the hardest jobs in the world. I keep telling people, no one believes me. No one kind of takes what I say seriously, but we've now seen podcasting is definitely harder than being a gangster rapper. So Jim Jones, if you're out there, podcasting definitely beats your profession, my friend. It definitely beats your profession. Next thing I want to mention was this. This is pretty cool, right? So this is courtesy of Michael Bibi, the very well-known tech house producer or DJ or whatever you want to call him. And he put this really cool caption or post up on Instagram that was really nice. It says the following. He said, I first met Kinahu, or is that saying Kinahu, after he snuck backstage at one of my shows, handing me a letter explaining it had a USB stick with music inside. Receiving USBs is normal, but the letter was the most heartfelt thing I've ever received. I prayed the music would be good. It was stacked full of amazing tracks. Yeah, that must be so, it must be a bit of a weird feeling to have in it when you're a DJ. You're a famous DJ, you get loads of people trying to, be your friend. You get loads of people, artists up and coming, trying to pass you promos like USBs or CDs or vinyls. And sometimes you find people who are really nice and you connect with for some reason. And then they give you music and the music's terrible, and you're like, oh man, I really like you as well, I wanted to hang, but now it makes it awkward because I can't really let you know that your music sucks and you should give it up and just look for another job, but I still want to hang, and it puts you in a weird position. So when you do find somebody that you legitimately clicked with and they actually do good stuff, it's quite, it's a big relief. Let's just say that. It's a big relief. It continues here. One of the songs was using an exact same sample of a track I was already working on with Audio Bullies. If I'm honest, his vocal arrangement was better than mine. I knew I had to call him and ask him to join me on the track immediately. Today, the song is number 3 in the Beatport charts. What an amazing story. This random person who written a really nice, heartfelt message here, as you can see there on the thing. It's a guy, Michael. He's from Amsterdam. He's writing him a message, giving him the USB. Really, really sweet. That's really cool to see. And now that track they've made together is now number 3 on Beatport charts. He said he's young, extremely talented kid with virtually no professional releases under his belt before this. So I wanted to do the right thing and hopefully help him achieve his dreams as a young touring producer and DJ. I love how you put touring. Ladies and gentlemen, meet Kinahu. So this is really nice of Michael Bibi. Like, he really putting his arm around this kid and giving him the biggest promo ever. This is great to see. But it also made me think, why don't we see this more often in the DJ culture or DJs in general? For whatever reason, I think in every other part of music, even hip hop being an obvious example of it, of the cosign, the arm around the shoulder, we see people always kind of lifting people up or bringing them in, but we rarely see it with DJs. Like, we rarely see somebody prominent kind of plucking somebody up and coming and deciding to take them on tour with them, you know, use them as an opening, or maybe just kind of, you know, get them some gigs here and there. It's not something that happens quite often. It's a very because even for myself, kind of, you know, being an up and coming DJ in that regard, it's a very singular profession, and it's also a very kind of closed profession. Like, once you're in the inside and you're somebody that's touring and you're going to, you know, you're DJing at the same club as everybody else, you're probably bumping into people at airports, suddenly everyone's your friend. But when you're out of that circle and you're not really booked, you're not really out there in the festival circuit, you're not in the main big clubs, it kind of feels like you're not really part of the conversation. You kind of feel a little bit out there, and it's kind of hard to get in, especially if you don't have an agent, or you don't have any tracks and stuff and whatnot, or maybe if you don't look a particular way. All those kind of things might play into it, or maybe just timing as well overall, or maybe just a fundamental thing, talent, who knows. But it's very difficult to kind of get in. But once you are in, you're in. But it's very rare you see somebody on the inside, like a very prominent person, say, hey, let me bring you forward. The only thing I can think of as an example is when a DJ might launch a label, and then they might kind of, you know, sign producers, but then push the producers to start DJing, because that's a good way to kind of get your songs out there. But rarely do I kind of think of seeing a big prominent person. If, like, a good example would be, imagine somebody prominent gets booked, like a Gerd Jansen gets booked to play at a party somewhere, but then whoever's promoting the party, they have their own DJs that they kind of use as residents. Gerd Jansen is going to play the main set, but he's hanging around and here's the person playing before them and they're amazing. And he says, hey, I think I might actually want to get you on board with Running Back or something. Do you know what I mean? Or kind of introduce you to my booking person. It rarely happens. It's just, you know, you book Gerd Jansen. Gerd Jansen comes, plays, slays with his little cravat and scarf on, does his thing, drinks his water and goes home. There's rarely, if ever, an opportunity to kind of be like, hey, I'm up and coming. Can you help me this, help me that? And I imagine even if you do ask for the help, you're probably met with like being left on scene, you know, people not following through. It's a bit brutal. So for someone like a Michael Bibi, who's huge, he's like really, really big. I think, you know, his followers must be in the millions now, because I've known of him for a while, but his followers definitely must, okay, it's close to millions, 800,000 for like what you'd call a bit of a niche tech house sort of DJ. For him to be at that level means he's really, really well known. So for him to do this just goes to show like how much of a decent human being he is, to go out of his way and do something like this. Is really, really cool. And we continue on. We see here a picture of the kid that made the track. He probably called him. We see a sample of them in the studio making the track. We get another page here.
Told you, there's things I haven't
What's the
told
track?
you. There's things I haven't told you. I go out late at night.
Nice.
I haven't told you.
Another picture as well with him, obviously, behind the scenes with Michael Bibi, who's got good taste wearing Vetements. So big up Biggie for wearing Vetements. It's not them in the era, but it's still good enough regardless. But also another thing to kind of note of this shouldn't be an opportunity or an encouragement for everyone to do this. This is just something that's kind of in your destiny. I don't think people should always copy someone else's approach to making it. This is just something that kind of was always destined for this kid to make it this way, to basically write, you know, Michael Bibi this really heartfelt message, and then he would have saw this message and then they kind of gone from there. This is always his path to go. It's not for someone else to kind of copy and kind of try and do the same thing, because I know that's what's going to happen. Many people, he probably should put a disclaimer in this caption, and it wouldn't surprise me if he does it in the next few days. Like, hey, edit, please refrain from sending me messages and, you know, kind of letters pleading for help and whatnot and telling me about all your problems or sending me a GoFundMe link. Like, no. This is definitely his story of getting forward. But like I said, I would love to see, I would love there to be more of this going forward. But I just think for whatever reason, DJing is somewhat of a very singular profession, and it's very singular in terms of how people even just approach it. There is no real bringing in with people. People are quite selfish with the opportunity. No, I wouldn't say selfish is a bad word to say, because it feels like you're owed it. No one's owed anything. No one should be giving you anything. But it just from an observing, even taking away my kind of desire to be one myself and how I'm kind of pursuing it, just looking at it from a punter's point of view, there's very rarely like people kind of reaching back and sort of bringing people up. It doesn't really happen for the most part, which is odd, but I'm sure there's a reason behind it. But I was thinking to myself, thinking, oh, this is pretty cool, and I would love this as well to happen to me. But the one thing that I would love more so to happen to me if I ever had the opportunity to bump into Michael Bibi is definitely to do something like this with Michael Bibi. This is definitely what I would be interested in, right? This is what I'll be interested in. And this is a clip of Michael Bibi playing in his home, I think at the time, or maybe a studio, but this was during the lockdown, during the pandemic is when I kind of discovered him actually, and he was really holding us down, I think, during the pandemic. Him and a few other people in the tech house scene doing these kind of live streams and whatnot, where you could kind of party at home and, you know, have a good time or whatnot. And he did this really cool mix, which is called Michael Bibi Isolate. Michael Bibi Isolate #5 live stream. True Isolation. And there's a particular part in this live stream where he seems to disappear to maybe do some stuff that I am a fan of doing, and it seems to be a good time. And this is definitely what I would like to do if I ever met Michael Bibi, instead of writing him, you know, heartfelt messages, because I don't write heartfelt messages to anybody. I wonder what's down there. I wonder what's down there. I wonder what's down there, right? I wonder what's down there. Whatever was down there, it kind of brings a little bit of allergies, you know? It's kind of it's somewhat of an allergy causer, right? It causes you to maybe scratch your nose, rub it, sneeze a little bit, whatever it may be. But that's what definitely I'd like to do if I ever bumped into Michael Bibi. But yeah, big up Michael Bibi regardless. That was super sweet of him. And big up the kid. How do you pronounce his name? I should keep forgetting it here. It's Kinahu. The track is out now at the moment if you do want to check it out. Actually, let's double check his Instagram to see what the track is called. I forgot the name of it. The track is called... where is it? Is this the one? I think this is the one here. I got it on screen. That's a track, right? Michael Bibi, Audio Bullies. Different side.
You see my different side. There's things I haven't told you. I go out late at night.
So big up him. That sounds absolutely amazing. So cool. Big up him. Kinahu, check him out. He's only on 5,000 followers now. I'm sure once he starts getting bookings and whatnot and playing in places, he's going to absolutely shoot up, and you'll see this go to flipping crazy places. So big up Kinahu, big up Michael Bibi for putting that together. Absolutely amazing to see. Impossible to hate. Next, wanted to mention this quickly, just as a thing to mention. This post has been going viral online, and I understand the LOLs behind it. I understand people laughing and having a little kind of LOL moment. But for me, I find this a little bit weird to laugh at, because for the most part, this is quite refreshing and nice to see. Because usually whenever I'm in the airport, the one thing you always see people doing is wearing, nowadays anyway, more so than ever, there's a lot of like lounge gear. Even myself, for the most part, when I'm going to the airport and I'm flying somewhere, I usually always just wear like a pullover hoodie, sweatpants and trainers. That's all I usually have, like a tracksuity type of look. But I remember a time when I was growing up where my parents always used to say, if you're ever traveling somewhere, like if we were going on the Eurostar somewhere, traveling to see family members, a sleepover for a holiday or a special event, whatever it may be, you would actually dress up. Like even on a school trip, your parents want to give you like a nice outfit, like, you know, get you some nice clothes, maybe, you know, whatever, maybe you'll save something in your wardrobe and kind of pull it out for that trip. But the idea behind it was to always kind of dress well. You never went to the airport looking slouchy. You always kind of put a good outfit on. Maybe part of it was like weird kind of contingency plan in case like your flight got delayed or it got cancelled. You had like an outfit that looked presentable in all manners, because if you put on a suit in the morning, you basically look good all the way through, right? But if you've got a pair of sweatpants on the whole day and your flipping flights get cancelled and you have to go back to work or something, suddenly you're kind of looking a bit, underdressed. So that whole idea of dressing up to go to the airport, I've always kind of known it to be a thing, but only in recent years for myself, I've kind of started to dress in like, sweatpants and hoodies and stuff to go to the airport. But I've never ever been the guy, because I've seen it recently when I went to the airport. I've seen people, like especially girls, just wearing tights and flipping, slides to go on a plane. And it's like, huh? I've never understood it in the slightest. If anything, I want to maybe take advantage, especially if I'm not taking check luggage. I want to have one outfit on. That's one less outfit in the bag. I don't want to go there with like all my outfits crammed in my luggage and then wearing my quote unquote pajamas to the airport. I think that's a little bit gross. So when I saw this tweet go viral where everyone's sharing, and this guy says there's always at least one of these guys on every flight I'm on, everything designer down to the phone case, they all do this just to sit in row 32B. And there's this guy that's at the airport and he's got everything Gucci. Like he's got this really, it's like an older gentleman, it looks like. He's got this really crazy Gucci glasses on, a Gucci backpack, the classic Asian black boy shirling jacket that we all love, skinny jeans, Balenciaga triple S's, and a Gucci a Gucci sack, like a hodl bag that he's got also that he's kind of wearing. Now, for me, I understand what the guy means, right? You're wearing all this designer stuff and then you're only going to go sit in coach. But I think that, first of all, first class prices for tickets are crazy. Like if you've ever tried to check how much it is to legitimately purchase without an upgrade, without air miles, just to purchase a ticket that's first class, it's absolutely crazy. It's really insane, the difference in between coach and whatnot. Luckily for me in Europe, or luckily for me, like because I travel mostly to Europe, I don't really have an option to go fly first class for the most part. And usually everyone takes coach anyway. So all of our airlines that I use, especially places like airlines like Vueling and Ryanair, they're kind of equivalent to you guys over there, Spirit Airlines. They do the job. They get you where you need to get to, A and B for the most part. They run quite often, bloody blah, blah, blah. So the idea of kind of getting a first class flight on those flights that are like less than 4 hours seems like a real waste of money. It would only make some sense if I was going like a transatlantic flight or somewhere to Southeast Asia, somewhere to North America, to Africa, South America. That would make more sense because those flights are like over 10 hours. But if you're traveling in and around Europe and whatnot, to get first class seat just so you can look congruent with the outfit that you have on seems a little bit extra. The only kind of slight I'd have with this guy's outfit, where he's wearing everything designer, is that I can't ever imagine sitting on a plane with skinny jeans for like 4.5 hours in those tight ass seats, especially in the altitude. It feels like everything kind of sticks to you a bit more. You feel uncomfortable. So that's the only thing I probably wouldn't do. I'd probably just wear some regular straight cut trousers. I wouldn't wear like skinny jeans and whatnot. And maybe again, not designer trainers because, as much as I love them, I've got a couple of pairs of Balenciaga triple S's. They're not the most comfortable shoes in the world. And they weigh a ton. So I probably wouldn't wear those to go to the airport, or wouldn't even take them with me full stop, and maybe wear something a little bit more comfortable. But I don't actually mind somebody making an effort when they go to the airport. I would much rather see this visually, as ridiculous as it looks, than to see a whole group of girls in pajamas and flipping, Lululemon leggings and whatnot, and flipping, what's that thing called? And those horrible flipping brown shoes that everyone wears, Uggs and whatnot, going to the airport. That's a bit gross, personally, I think. Like, you should be able to make some level of an effort. So as ridiculous as this guy looks to be, designer from head to toe and going to go sit coach and sit on row 32B, at least he's making some level of effort, in my opinion. At least he's making some level of effort. But again, what do I know? What do I know? Moving on from that one, we got these quickly. I wanted to quickly highlight regarding these mules from ALYX, featured here by Hypebeast. 1017 ALYX, 9SM delivers this dual monochromatic mono hiking mule for spring summer 2023. I'm not really sold on mules yet. I don't know what it is about the shape of them, or maybe it's because of the area that I live in. The only thing I can think of when it comes to mules is because I live near an area where we've got this international school, and there's a student accommodation that's usually filled with a lot of basically Chinese students who love designer. And there was a period in time when they all were wearing these particular Gucci loafers that were essentially mules, where it had like a bit of fur in the back of them, and they were really popular. Every kind of kid that went to that flipping, or that stayed in that student accommodation seem to be wearing them to go and do their flipping shopping on a weekday, which kind of tells you what kind of money those guys are playing with. Though they kind of turn those Gucci fur things into slides. But I don't know. There's something about Mules I just can't get into. Even though these are done really well with these ALYX trainers, like essentially they've made them look quite cool. Like, and they're not just, because I think some mules, they just look like they just cut the heel off, whereas these look like they've kind of been designed in a particular way to kind of flow and kind of work with the upper. Of course, the extra kind of thick sole kind of adds to it. And, you know, in general, I think, you know, ALYX do produce and design decent trainers, but it's something just about the silhouette that I just can't get down with. And I just can't imagine in my life, in anywhere I'd be, where I'd want to wear a trainer. No, I want to wear a mule that looks like a trainer. Because I feel like for me, if I want to wear something that's got like a loose back, I'm going to put a pair of Birkenstocks on, I'm going to put a pair of slides on, or actual slippers. I'm not going to wear a trainer that's a slipper, if you get what I mean. That's not really kind of my vibe. If I want to wear a designer shoe, I wear a designer shoe that's big and chunky, but I don't need to have it look like a slipper. That's the only thing I don't really understand. But I think maybe this kind of occupies the same area of interest as, like I said, as those Chinese students that I saw in my area, those rich Chinese students who legitimately want to wear like just expensive shoes and slippers. That's just what they do. It's like seeing a kid. I remember one time when I had my Balenciaga triple S's, because I had a couple of pairs and one of them, unfortunately, you know, the sole flipping crumbled. But I remember one time being on a train and one Asian dude came up to me and said, "Hey, how are those for running? Like, are those good for the gym and stuff?" Like, and he was being serious. It wasn't like he was joking around. He was legitimately being serious. Like, would you recommend them for the gym? And I was looking at him thinking, like, why would you wear Balenciaga triple S's to the gym? These things are like, have no flex in them whatsoever. They are super stacked, like sole wise. They're not really comfortable and they're really expensive. Like, why would you trash these shoes in the gym? Then I remembered, oh yeah, I remember those kids from from locally who went to that international school who would wear Gucci loafers to the flipping, to the flipping supermarket and whatnot. That's what they do on a daily basis. And I couldn't really kind of get my head around it. But sometimes when you got money like that, you could just do that. Do you know what I mean? You could just turn your most expensive shoe into a slipper or even wear them to play flipping football and basketball. It just is what it is. There's courtesy of Hypebeast. It says, after expanding his collaborative catalog with Nike and the slide, Matthew Williams is now diving back into the footwear sphere, bringing more attention to his inline category with the 1017 ALYX 9SM. This latest delivered from a contemporary label is the Mono Hiking Mule, which is just touched down. Both offerings here have starred in the monochromatic motifs. The upper halves of the mules are formed with a breathable mesh. Tonal branding is embossed and silver hardware mixed up on the eyelet. Both colorways are now available to purchase from the ALYX website for $467 for a pair of mules. It's a bit tough, man. I wonder what the full trainer is worth. Is retailed at? What do you have to pay to get the rest of it? I wonder what that is. But yeah, that's a lot of money for a mule for me, to be honest. But big up Matthew Williams, big up ALYX. You know, I got time for them, man. Another thing I want to mention, which I'm really happy about, is one retro that I've been looking for a long time, because I'm a big fan of that period of like Nike crush training shoes from like the mid 80s to the mid 90s. Are these. The Nike Mac Attacks are back. The OGs are back. Look at these loveliness. And if you don't remember these were basically John McEnroe's pro model back in the day when he was playing tennis. That's kind of basically essentially it. And at the time, they were really kind of controversial and different, because back in the day, if you were playing tennis, you were only really allowed to wear white shoes. You weren't really allowed to wear anything quote unquote colored. So with these being mostly gray with black and whatnot, they really kind of were striking on the field. Even though nowadays people are wearing pink shoes and whatnot and all this sort of craziness, like different color shoes on each foot, this was a real kind of difference when you were kind of, growing up at the times that John McEnroe was playing tennis at the time. So these are coming back and absolutely love them. And to me, again, they kind of remind me a little bit of Air Trainer 1s, which again is one of my favorite shoes that I would definitely wear to want to wear to the gym. So these are definitely ones that I would definitely purchase as like kind of weird cross cross-training gym shoes to wear, because I'm not really a fan, as much as I have them now, I'm not really a fan of like low-cut gym shoes. I like them to be a bit mid. I like that kind of mid shape, similar to like an Air Trainer 1, and this sort of course fills that category without looking too bulky. And of course, with them being tennis shoes, they're going to have good grip, they're going to be really comfortable and easy to wear, blah blah blah, and nice breathability. So it says here, the comeback of this iteration marks the first time that Nike the kicks have been ever seen in retro release. The high-profile model under Nike family, such as the LeBron James and Travis Scott, are spotted rocking the vintage pair back in 2021. Rumored to touch down during spring 2023, the Macatech OGs will be fashioned with original design cues. Its upper build is formed of mesh underlays and smooth leather overlays, both of which are treated with with a lighter grey hue. Navy accents then infiltrate the swooshes and mesh and toe boxes and the tongues and device. Okay, cool, it's navy. Yeah, I thought it was black. Enjoy the first look of the pair, the gallery below, and expect our release to announce retail soon. So retail hasn't been announced soon, but sometime later this year we're going to get them. You see the outsole here, nice bit of tread there for the grip out there in the courts. The only thing I'm kind of concerned about is the leather quality. The leather looks a little bit cheap if you kind of zoom in, so it doesn't look like the best leather in the world. But again, just in terms of getting that model, being able to buy one retro, I'm definitely on it, because it's really hard to find OGs of these, especially cheap, especially since Travis Scott wore them. Now they go up to crazy prices because he just basically put them on his feet, which is fucking annoying. But it's nice to see them coming back again. So yeah, Mac Attacks are due to coming back again. One of my favorite shoes, and I cannot wait for them to officially drop when they do. Quickly changing tact a little bit, I want to quickly mention this really interesting article courtesy of Resident Advisor, featuring a DJ that I really like called Nene H. And what she mentioned here regarding the music industry and just, the money you do and don't make as an artist and stuff is like quite depressing, I'm not gonna lie. So this is an article, it's really cool. It says here, with the launch of her record label Ume, the Turkish-born techno artist commits to teaching emerging producers what not to do in the electronic music business, right? So we continue here and roll down, and I think the bit I want to know here is somewhere around here. So let's read it here. So it said, there's no official manual for navigating the music business, no wiki how to negotiate a DJ fee or find a booking agent. Though the Turkish-born Berlin DJ Nene H early shows might read as a somewhat aspirational CV, including performances at the Berlin Anatole, CTM, DJ Stingray, 301 Night, Trezor, her memories of those years are not of a steady ascent to stardom. She says, I always felt like the corner girl. I hadn't found my people yet, and I had no one to go to for advice. This narrative may seem incongruous with someone who's booked more than 150 gigs across 5 continents since playing her first Berghain club night in July 2019, but Nene H sees this misconception as an endemic issue. There's not a lot of transparency in the industry. It's something that the DJ is striving for to be more of, and what's inspired the launch of a new label. And I think this is what I said earlier about the whole Michael Bibi thing, right? And how he kind of brought that guy under his wing and is kind of, helping him put his record out and just kind of putting him out there so he can kind of get more gigs, maybe get an agent and whatnot. We don't really see that too often, and it's cool. It's kind of interesting to know from somebody that legitimately is kind of like made it in the industry, that she didn't also feel like there was that support system or people you could kind of go to for help and advice, or for a shoulder to cry on, an ear to complain into, and now she's kind of trying to fix that issue. And I really want to know really why that is the case. Why is it that in DJ world it just doesn't seem to be an area where people either want to freely give advice, freely help, or just be a resource? It just seems like people are just locked in doing what they're doing and just continue doing it that way, which might explain why as well the genres are so segregated, the different scenes, right? Where there's no real kind of overlap between tech house and techno kind of thing, or the house scene is definitely split up, usually oddly enough in terms of culture and sometimes race and shit. That might be the reason why a lot of it's like that, but it's really unfortunate. But let's continue. Nene H had committed to a life of music for almost 20 years before she played at Berghain at age 11. She joined the music academy in the hometown of Izmir, and then went on to study piano at the Stuttgart State Conservatory. Having becoming a disenfranchised with the white elite confines of the Western classical genre, she eventually moved to Berlin in 2013 to pursue electronic music. The transition from music as a creative and academic endeavor to a viable career path was a difficult one, and a road paved with trial and error. It was a hustle. I jumped on way too many things that came my way because I didn't know any better, she said. Speaking candidly about her own experiences, something Nene H views as vital to create more open and honest discussions about the nuances of navigating the industry. Over the course of her career, for example, Nene H told me, again, this is the frightening bit about this. Over the course of her career, Nene H told me she's earned a grand total of 0 cents in streaming revenue despite having racked up a discography of at least 40 tracks and more than 23,000 monthly listeners on Spotify. No, for real, she laughed. Nothing. That is scary. That is definitely scary. Someone as prominent and what I would say, well known, especially within my little niche of dance music and electronic music and whatnot. Maybe some of you guys probably don't know her, but in terms of my little niche of what I know, like she's definitely someone that I would say is well known and definitely on her way for, legit stardom. To be in a place where you don't make zero money from the music that you produce and that you have online streaming on these digital streaming platforms is legitimately insane. But it also is somewhat understandable because for whatever reason, there is a real big need for people in dance music to have their tracks signed to a well-known label. And I'm sure most of it has to do with just eyes on it and ears on your track. And obviously you want to be associated with a legendary record label and whatnot. That should be that makes a lot more sense. Yeah, big up Wade. That makes a lot of sense. I understand why people are like that. But I just feel like nowadays, especially with social media, especially with the internet, especially with all these tools where you can kind of essentially upload your own music to get shared and to get platformed on places like Apple Music and flipping Spotify and whatnot, and TuneCore, all these things going on. I just don't understand why people are rushing to sign to labels. If they're going to take the majority of your monies, if they're not going to pay you, especially in Nene H's case where she had that issue where she went through with possessions, where they essentially were withholding payment or not paying her at all. Like all those things could be avoided if you just kind of do it yourself. But obviously the do it yourself part of things requires a lot of work. And maybe if you're touring and you're out here doing all these different gigs, different media obligations and whatnot, there isn't the time to really kind of learn and do those kind of things. But I feel like that's really the space or the kind of the thing that needs to kind of shift in the scene overall. People just need to kind of figure out a solution where they can kind of just release stuff on their own legitimately. Because I remember reading an article recently where it said something like, I don't know what it costs. I think it costs like, was it 128 streams to make like $1 or something crazy like that, right? But I think even though that's really low conversion, it should be quite encouraging for people who are independent, because it basically means if you do create a little following or garner a following of yourself online, you can essentially sustain yourself as an artist, making music just for the people that kind of like you and kind of mess with what you do. Of course, it'd be good to kind of get booked in places and kind of be able to go on tour because you can make more, maybe get sponsored by certain people, maybe get a label to put some money behind an album or a project or whatnot, or just maybe give you a deal overall. But there is an avenue to actually make a living as a working musician or an artist now with these kind of tools. But obviously, it requires a lot of work to do it on your own. But it's just crazy to think that she's racked 0 cents, even though she's got all those flipping listeners. It's absolutely insane. It continues here. Despite the sales and streaming of the electronic music being valued at 1.3 billion, research from the International Music Summit suggests that only 1.2% of electronic music producers are earning a livable wage from it. But again, I'm going to say the reason why this is because the majority of people are signed to labels. Personally, production labels, management labels, record labels, like they're signed to somebody's always got their hand in their pocket when it comes to musicians. Always. Very rarely are people doing stuff on their own. Everyone's kind of, even me with DJ stuff, you see people all the time with that got, there's this thing that even I'm like, I want to do stuff on my own, but even I'm looking at it thinking, oh my God, I can't wait to get a booking agent, because everybody that's a DJ has that thing in their bio, booking agent for Europe, for domestic, for international, different people and shit. It's quite, it's something that you kind of want to have as well, because everybody that you kind of look up to has the same thing. But that's also somebody taking money, out of your pocket. And then I'm sure those booking agents are probably linked to press. They're probably linked to labels. So there's this kind of circular thing, which is kind of essentially like a 360 deal where everybody's taking everything out of you in some way, shape or form, which is absolutely wild. It continues. Of this 1.2%, the fraction of producers who are female, non-binary, black, POC, queer or trans is unspecified. But given that it will take an estimated 90 years to achieve a 50-50 parity between the males and the female music producers alone, and even longer to producers of color, it's reasonable to assume that the number is pitiful. It's just one of the ways that the industry's image of success varies from the real life manifestations. To me, that's where people lose me. This sort of stuff, like, even though I look at it and I can sometimes be like, you know, a good example being Fold, right? One of my favorite clubs here in London and a place I've been going to since it opened. There's not a lot of black DJs that play there overall, right? It doesn't matter to me. I don't give a fuck. Also, you know, I could say I should be playing there, right? Because I'm an up-and-coming DJ. I'm somebody that's been a fan of the place for ages. I live locally. I can maybe say, oh, yeah, because I'm black, I should be there also. But that's not how life works, right? You don't get given stuff based on your color and creed and where you're from. That really isn't how it should be going. And in general, when it comes to DJing, it's already difficult as is. It's super, super difficult, especially if you don't produce or whatnot to make it anyway, just in terms of getting from, like, I said it to somebody before, like going from playing with the MIDI player or like messing around with virtual DJ in your bedroom to suddenly playing in a massive festival or a massive club or going on a tour. There's not really a direct route to take you from that to that. It doesn't really exist in that regard. You kind of have to kind of make up your own way, whether it's kind of streaming online, making a record, joining a collective, starting your own nights, or maybe doing all of it at the same time. There is no kind of one size fits all route to get there. Some people make it in 2 years, some people make it 11 years, 12 years, 20 years, never. It's all kind of up there. So if all those things are already existing as hurdles or as kind of stumbling blocks and as struggles to kind of get there, I think adding the extra bit on there of saying you have to be a particular color or creed, you have to represent a particular kind of community, you have to be a particular type of whatever, I just think that just adds unnecessary complexity to the issue that doesn't need to exist. If anything, all of this stuff should be more on the venues. This should be more on the booking agent. It shouldn't be on, like, this should be more on them instead of them kind of following the trends and going by based on ticket sales. This should be more on them to kind of have nights that kind of reflect, to kind of have lineups that reflect the people that go to their clubs. Like, you know, you go to some of these clubs. I always mention, what's that thing called? I mentioned that flipping really corny EDM festival in Belgium as a good example. What's it called again? EDM festival in Belgium. What's it called? I keep forgetting the name of it. Tomorrowland. Yeah, Tomorrowland's a good example. I'll keep using Tomorrowland as an example. Every year Tomorrowland comes around, there's these Instagram pages that burst out from nowhere where they feature all these scantily clad girls, really cute, really hot girls in really tight lycra and spandex and leather and whatever else, harnesses and whatnot, you know, wearing kind of cute techno outfit, whatever EDM type of outfits going out there, right, and having a good time. And some of them just go for the clout, right? They might even be just OnlyFans girls using those things as a place to kind of promote themselves. But I think a lot of girls just go there to kind of, you know, it's quite fun to dress up and have some fun and, you know, and basically listen to the favorite DJs that you like to kind of see. I'm pretty sure, similar like me, like most people out there, when you start to DJ, you maybe went to a party for the first time, saw somebody that you liked, someone that you didn't like, whatever it may be, and you felt inspired and you went to try it yourself. That's how I did it. I'm pretty sure there are some of those girls who go to those festivals and think, wow, man, this person's amazing. I'd love to be him, right? I'd love to do that. And they feel inspired to also play and maybe, you know, book a session at Pirate Studios or buy a MIDI player so they can DJ. But when's the last time you've seen a Tomorrowland lineup that reflects the people that go to the festival? When have you seen, like, you know, a real decent amount of women on those lineup in general that kind of look like they go to the festivals? It doesn't happen. It's just the same names every single year because those names sell tickets. Those names are the ones well known. So this issue, as much as it's important, it's also an issue that's kind of more so on the industry itself because they kind of by default just pick the easiest thing, and the easiest thing is obviously to, you know, put a festival on, and obviously put a festival on with people that are well known so you can sell tickets and make the money back you invested. That makes complete sense. But there should be an understanding that over time, especially with electronic music becoming as popular as it is now, it's becoming legitimately mainstream dance music. It definitely is mainstream now, you could definitely say. There's loads of quote unquote normies that go to, underground type events and have a good time. I feel like the lineup should be reflecting of that. It shouldn't just be like the same people every single year, because especially nowadays, festival lineups are becoming so predictable. You can basically guess, you could basically say the same 5 to 10 names, and you could definitely find them across different festivals to different continents. It's absolutely crazy. So as much as this is important, I feel like the main thing should just be like, hey, let's maybe be clear and maybe give people an idea as to how long and how actually hard it is to go from being a MIDI player person to playing in a festival. And let's also put the onus on the clubs and the bookers and whatnot to kind of maybe, think out of the box and book people a little bit different than usual. But, to say that this should be the prerogative, like, hey, it should be hard coded, that you should always have 50% this, it's not sensible, because there probably isn't a matching amount of women DJs out there to match it 50-50 anyway. So by default, essentially, you'll be raising up people based on their gender who maybe aren't as good as others just because of, how they identify in terms of sex and whatnot, or gender. It just doesn't make sense to me in that regard. But I do think the problem is kind of layered. But it continues. In the summer 2022, Nene H appeared to be thriving. She was playing at least 13 shows a month, 3 or 4 a weekend. But as she reached new heights of her career mentally, she hit some of the lowest. It was just too much. I've been through some very heavy personal stuff, but even in the most horrible moments, I've always been able to deliver. Her acclaimed debut album, Ali, a mesmeric exploration of grief made after her father's death, is testament to this fact. During this intense period of touring, she found herself frequently feeling faint and vomiting. I didn't know what was happening. I was going back and forth with the doctor, but at some point I said to myself, this is psychological. My ground was shaking. I was playing too much. This is something you definitely need to hear from people, to be fair. This is the kind of honesty that people need to hear when it comes to that kind of career, because I think on one side, even myself, it's nice to see, or it's kind of something you want to aspire to when you check out DJ on RA and you see the amount of dates they got, and you're like, rah, man, I can't wait until that's me. But on the other side of things, to go from somebody that's kind of relatively unknown to suddenly going to being a touring person, or you're in demand, everyone wants you to play at their place every weekend, you're in one city one day, then maybe the same day you go to another city completely, it's going to take its toll on you, especially if you're not used to it. And it's good to kind of have this kind of honesty out there. Like, and even this line, I was playing too much, because for someone like myself who hasn't played in a while, I'm thinking about it, I'm like, there is no such thing as too much. But obviously, if you go from not playing at all to suddenly playing 150 times in a year, it could definitely be too much. According to research carried out by the UK charity Help Musicians, Nene H experience is no anomaly. A staggering 65% of people working in music have experienced depression compared to the 15% of the wider population, and around 70% of report anxiety and panic attacks. You have all these platforms pressuring you to deliver, she explained, and it's different from everybody. And I want to deliver different things. I want to be able to be creative. I just don't want to play. Together with her current booking agent, Nene H has found a sweet spot, a maximum of 8 shows per month. Wow, interesting. That kind of goes back to what Dixon was doing, right? Dixon, when he kind of was reaching the pinnacle of his success, I think he's kind of changed his mind now, because probably he's a dad and he's just kind of focused on making as much money as possible so he can, support his family. But when there was a time when he was kind of getting voted the top DJ of RA, where he said he would kind of draw back his gigs. I think he was like maximum like 100 gigs a year, which is still a lot, but I think for most people that were banging it out, like that's a Sex Truxler at the time and Jamie Jones, when they were blowing, they were doing plus 200, you know what I mean? Even someone like a Solomon and stuff, they were going crazy. So the fact that Dixon, even though he was in demand, was purposely pulling back and holding back, said a lot. And for sure that maybe added to his longevity. That's probably why he's able to have this like second, third, fourth, fifth wind in his career, where he seems to just be getting a bit more popular. I would say he's improving, because I've seen him a lot of times and it's been a bit samey, but he's definitely been garnering bigger audiences and crowds overall. It's just becoming crazy and crazy. Maybe that's because of that early time in his career when he kind of could have taken advantage of the RA best DJ in the world kind of poll thing and kind of milked that. He purposely sort of withdrew and kind of gone in himself and said, no, I'm going to restrict my gigs, I'm going to protect my mental health, I'm going to protect my creativity and all that malarkey, so that later on I can kind of see the fruits of it. And now that he's older, he's able just to kind of press the button and go crazy when he wants to, and then kind of relax and stuff. So I'm sure a lot of DJs, like do that whole like August thing of going to like is it Bali and places like that in India to kind of, you know, decompress, go to like a silent retreat, no phone, no whatever. But obviously that can help as well. It continues. As her career was progressed, having a team she can trust and communicate openly with has been vital for both her music and for her mental and physical health. It took 4 years and 3 booking agents for Nene H to find the one, Julia Plash. I feel like there was a lot of people behind my back, she said. After playing live at Seoul in 2017, a seismic achievement that was permanently tarnished after overhearing a racist remark about her appearance. Sure. In Berghain, you know? Crazy. Holy shit. Imagine booking a set like this and then you're like on your highest high and then you hear somebody, I don't know what, referring to you as a kebab or something. I don't know what people say over there, man. But imagine that. That must have been horrible. Nene H has one specific goal, to play on the main floor of Berghain, but for some reason her agent had a different agenda. I found out 2 months later that Berghain had requested me and the booking had been rejected. Wow. This history became the catalyst for Ume. Well, hold on. So I don't understand that. Her agent rejected it. Why? Because they overheard the racism. I don't know. Okay, I don't understand that bit. This history became a catalyst of Ume, Nene H's new non-profit record label venture, which launches on February 15th, with Maktub, the debut release from Turkish-German artist Bashka. Convinced as a kind of personal pay-it-forward scheme, with Nene H promising no new POC and female, lesbian, intersex, trans, and agender producers, her label will pay artists 100% of the profit from record sales, alongside providing one-on-one support and guidance of marginalized artists. I don't know how they're going to make money though, but that's a fucking noble idea. I think I mentioned it beforehand. That's really amazing. And as you know, as layered and as kind of complex as this issue is in general in terms of representation, and I feel like a lot of it you can't just kind of force it, you know, whatever down people's throats and whatnot, or just kind of make it a stipulation of people before they even start and not care about the skill, their ability or their talent or hard work, and just kind of, you know, rely on these labels. It is still good to see somebody doing it and putting their money where their mouth is. I think I mentioned it before, like Rago, like let me try. Do you know what I mean? Even though it doesn't seem likely and whatever it may be, and the cards are stacked against me, let me give it a go and see what happens. And because you know how this industry is, if this works, people are going to be copying it. Do you know what I mean? So it just is a case of just kind of proving it, going into it with an optimistic mindset and hoping it kind of works out. It says here, I'm at a point in my career where I'm comfortable, she says, Nene H. I want to be there for other marginalized artists who face more issues. I'm not interested in taking 1,000 from an artist who needs it more than me, who has less access to it because who they are and where they are located, who maybe doesn't have a visa to travel gigs. I want to create a platform where people can actually have conversations with the label boss and not have their emails ignored for months. Why are things like that? That's mad, isn't it? Imagine you work all that time, slave over a record, you're spamming somebody's inbox, you're tagging them in the flipping comments, you handing them flipping USBs after the gig you know they're not going to listen to. They finally listen to it, they get you on board, you're happy, you're hyped, and then now you're on the label, you're signed, you're actually signed to the label, you're part of their artist roster, you're a colleague, you're a employee, you're a whatever else in it, whatever label it is, and you send them an email, you know, just want to shoot the shit and ask a question, and they ignore it. The music industry is brutal, man. It's absolutely brutal. Really is brutal. Like everything you hoped and dreamed for, you get there, and it just kind of like it's completely different than what you expect it to be. It continues there. In a traditional label model, artists deal with slim profit margins and delayed payout to the record sales. For first, the record has to break even, Nene H explained, which means the vinyl is sold out with some additional digital sales on the side. Then I would say after the couple of years, it might reach a couple of €1,000. Such a return is then typically split 50-50 between the artist and the label. But she said it could be 3 years, it could be 5. So from you making the record to you actually getting money in your pocket for it is 5 years, which is probably why people do. I guess this is why probably records should be looked at as like business cards, innit? They're not really ways to make money. They're just a way to kind of, there are business cards and CVs. You do them to kind of show your work, to show your ability, or maybe like a portfolio. And then you hope that portfolio gets your bookings to play places. And then when you get booked at places, that money is what you actually make. But the idea of like, you know, making money from a hit record, like how dare you as an artist slaving away in the studio expect to get paid for a hit record that you put out? How dare you? You have to wait. Exactly. So you have to hope you get booked. But imagine if you're a producer that doesn't want to DJ. I'm sure they exist. You have no interest in DJing. You don't even want to perform live. You just like to make exciting tracks, put them out on great labels, and get them to the people, and have them do what they want with them. Remixes, enjoy them, send you clips of them playing it, whatever it may be. But you have no interest in DJing. You basically have to DJ in order to kind of earn some money, or you wait 3 to 5 years. Up to you. In her experience, labels often view amounts of money as inconsequential. They don't ever bother paying out. This blatant disregard for and exploitation of artists that comes from ignoring their royalty requests is a situation that prompted Nene H's own public call-out public call-out of Paris-based label Possession last year, which we haven't seen them again actually since, to be honest, which is absolutely crazy. Ume could be called the membership program, but there's a lot there. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but yeah, big up Nene H regardless. The pictures are flipping awesome. Who took the pictures here? Is it the pictures? Does it say? Photo credit. Julian, who's that? Julian Tell. So big up Nene H for this. It looks really cool. I love everything about it. What do you call it? Let's read the last paragraph. It says, though through her accomplished body of work and unapologetic politics, Nene H not only demonstrates talent, but true tenacity and aversion to bullshit. But if there's one thing she wants for up-and-coming artists, is for them to not be like her. I sucked at making decisions. I don't want anyone else to lose as much as time as I did. I want all queer brown kids to be killing it. Wow, amazing. Love to hear it. Good message, very inspiring. Hopefully we see more of it going forward. And I think that's a Bashka person, right? Yep, so big up them also. Really cool article from RA. If you haven't already checked it out, check it. It says Nene H, her quest to equalize the music industry. Really, really good article. I really enjoyed it. I can't lie. So, moving on from that, I wanted to quickly message. Just let me check this out and see this. Let me see what I can see here. I forgot I was going to mention. I saw this. I saw that. We spoke about the Nak attack. Oh, let's speak about this. Yeah, cool. Let's speak about this quickly. So, courtesy of Hypebeast, Fear of God Essentials reveals their contemporary spring 2023 collection. Fear of God Essentials. Man, I don't know what happened to Fear of God Essentials. I don't know why it happened or when it happened, but Fear of God Essentials went from like being like just a couple of hoodies and t-shirts here that people used to buy to being its own really fully fledged kind of subset of Fear of God, the main label. So before, when Jerry Lorenzo launched Fear of God, it felt like this, like it was all one. And I think after a period of time, he started to realize that there was a divide between these customers. There was a split. There was a customer that wanted to buy his sort of like, you know, what you'd quote to be like ready to wear collection in terms of Fear of God. And those people that wanted just to buy the sweats and the comfy shorts and the hoodies and whatnot and the t-shirts and the bomber jackets that he made under the Essentials label. And for me personally, this is a real credit to his ability to design, because for the most part, with some exception, most of it is monochromatic. Most of it is just colors, right? Just real dull, kind of like washed out colors, and really the emphasis is put on the shapes, but there's no prints, there's no crazy patterns, there's no crazy appliques, there's no, you know, flipping bedazzlements everywhere. He's just selling the strength of these sweats and these flipping comfy, you know, garments based on their shape and what they feel like and whatnot, and people are going crazy for them. And if anything, the funny part about it, what I think is really cool, Fear of God Essentials to me feels like the sub label, right? Or maybe the cheaper version of Fear of God. But when I see people wearing it, I see people wearing Fear of God Essentials t-shirts and hoodies to the club, like flexing it like it's mainline Fear of God. Do you know what I mean? That's the thing that's really cool about it. Even though it's meant to be the comfy, loungy, relaxed, maybe youth side of Fear of God, I've seen adults take that garment and really kind of luxe it up by wearing it with pride and feeling like, yeah, this is the thing. And wearing it on the same level that you'd wear like a Balenciaga thing or whatnot, or a Gucci thing or whatnot, or Prada. That says a lot about his design and his ability to kind of put clothes together, man, because it's really, really cool. Even though I wouldn't specifically wear it myself, I think that really does say a lot about him as a designer and how much he's kind of progressed over the years. And as you can see here, you know, the sweatpants, the shape of them is always absolutely smashing. I love this drop crotch, which is basically his signature a little bit. And if I'm not mistaken, this comes from Rick Owens, which is quite cool to see him develop, because I think the first bits of Fear of God that I initially saw when he first launched, it kind of felt a little bit copyish to me, because a lot of it felt like it was influenced by early Hedi Slimane at Saint Laurent and of course Rick Owens. But over time, he has kind of, you know, made it his own. So he took the drawstrings that you would know from, you know, Rick Owens pants that were usually always white, and obviously made them to be tonal. He took the crotch pant, the drop crotch sort of style on most of the pants that Rick Owens would do, or shorts, and kind of made it his own. I'm sure he's got a particular shape that he likes, and even just the shape of the leg. You know, he used to always like the kind of that banana style leg where it kind of like big at the top, kind of went down skinny to the bottom, had that kind of wide cut on it. But just the look of it, the stack of it is really, really done well. Like, I'm a real big fan of what he does, honestly, with this type of stuff. Like I said, because it's, you know, it's essentially all sweats, but he's able to kind of luxe it and make it look really, really premium. And, you know, even this stuff he's got looking here, it looks amazing. It's kind of like the lookbook here looks like kind of like 80s type style with these really great, amazing pop socks on the feet of the girls. You've got these amazing skirt type of sweatpant looking thing, which I'm sure a lot of dudes will end up wearing also. This nice sort of like what looks to me to be like kind of active wear looking stuff. But yeah, all of it looks amazing. The colors are always great. The pictures are great. This model for Fear of God always smashes it. I forgot his name. He's got a kid. He's always on social. He's really cool. It all looks really great. With the socks going over the trainers, it's definitely giving 80s. But yeah, people are saying, yeah, Wade Harris, yeah, saying Fear of God Vans. Yeah, definitely. Fear of God Vans were pretty sick. But yeah, he does a really, really amazing job with Fear of God essentials. I think Jerry Lorenzo. And it goes without saying, like, I think this is kind of, it doesn't get the credit it deserves, because maybe it's, you know, a lot of kids wear it, especially in the hood from where I am at. A lot of it maybe isn't real, but it doesn't matter. It still gets the brand out there. But I do think this is underrated, what he's able to do. Like, even this pant is crazy. It's like looks like a brushed or like a cotton mix or something, with these amazing drawstrings, nice and loose. The shape of it is absolutely banging. And I like the fact that the model is wearing these ballet pumps on them. Like, the mix between the ballet pumps with the sweats with the hoodie is so good. I love everything about it, to be fair. The ballet flats with the pumps on it looks really cool. Nice t-shirt, the styling, the layering is always great. This he's done really well. Again, I'm not really a fan of the sleeveless hoodie, but I think he's definitely, I feel like, pioneered whatever this cut and this shape is of this what you'd call, I guess, like it's like a short sleeve sweat top, but then it's also got a long sleeve stitched on underneath. I'd imagine it is. That's how usually, and I like that thing, because I see that and I immediately think of Fear of God, or I see like a stripe on the side of a trouser, I think Fear of God. So it's definitely some easy, real cool design little codes that he's done. And again, most of it is just like, you know, what you'd call to see quintessential kind of sweat colors that he's been able to kind of make his own. I really, really like the look of that. Even the logo here on the socks being at the front, that's really cool. These really long socks that you could wear with like high tops or Jordans or whatnot, or even Rick Owens, and you can kind of put them on and have the label there. It kind of gives you a little bit of a panache going there. But yeah, everything about this I absolutely love. I actually love how it sits, how it looks, and over time I've seen Fear of God basically everywhere, especially the essential stuff everywhere, literally everywhere. This look here, number 20, oof, it's absolutely powerful. I love this kind of like dusty dark green type of color. Looks really nice. I love the tonal look on the logo without it being too crazy. The essentials written on there looks really nice. Nice bag as well. Again, the styling is always great. I wonder if he works with a stylist or it's just all Jay Lorenzo doing it, because these all do look like Jay Lorenzo fits. That's what I like about it. Also, it looks like stuff that he would actually wear. Like, this look is absolutely powerful with the what do you call, like a quarter zip zip jacket that looks like a puffer with a sweat underneath, and the cut on those pants, the drawstring, how that sits is great. Nice big pockets, nice long drawstring. You can probably tighten the hems at the bottom also. All of it looks absolutely beautiful, absolutely gorgeous. I love every little thing about it, to be fair. It looks really good. Oh, this blue outfit's really nice too. This oversized. Oh, I like this look. This kind of reminds me of, unfortunately, like an idiot, I lost mine, but I had this Balenciaga padded overshirt that, you know, a lot of people kind of had at the time. It was blue check, and I flipping left it at a rave somewhere. But it reminds me of the same sort of cut. It's got probably invincible pockets on here. It's kind of oversized, but then instead of having buttons, which the Balenciaga one I have, this one has a zip, which I kind of like the look of, to be fair. And it looks like it might be, is it corduroy? It might be corduroy, actually. Looking at it, it might be corduroy. That's really nice, in the sort of like a washed out blue color with the same color of the pants. But yeah, I'd wear the hell out of that look, to be fair. That's definitely one of my favorite looks of the whole collection. I'd wear the hell out of this from head to toe, no doubt about it. And of course, you got the other ones as well with the women's looks also that look really nice. This bag is awesome. Massive strap on there. Well, it's like a suede bag. Really lovely. The color combination is really cool here with the yellow, with the blue, with that sort of, what would you call that, magenta, purple, red, burgundy sort of color. The styling tip there with the sweatpants on top of another pair of sweatpants pulled up. It's absolutely banging also. Everything about it is good. You got some kids featured in there. Good crop tops. That puffer jacket thing, this is probably going to be very popular. We're definitely going to be seeing this on the city street somewhere near you very soon. That jacket looks really, really cool. I love the look of that. Nice spring jacket. Those pants there look really nice also. So yeah, big up Jay Lorenzo and Fear of God Essentials. Let's go to the article here. It says on a spring color palette, the collection includes a mixture of Fear of God signatures and new silhouettes. Those that look familiar are made of new fresh tones and ever so slightly reimagined silhouettes, while never before seen styles push the brand further into the modern category. Made with considering textiles, not only is it composition, but it's versatility too. Among the range, overshirts, trench coats, polo shirts are crafted of myriad of fabrics, including thick waffle, woven nylon, Milano stitch, and corduroy, as I said. Meanwhile, washed denim trucker jackets, oh nice, all that was, pair well with classic jeans and tones. The collection's first delivery will be arriving on March 8th, with a second delivery on April the 5th. Items will be available to purchase in men's, women's, and kids sizes. Check out Fear of God Essentials in the gallery above. So yeah, coming to you very, very, very soon, but I like it. I wouldn't be surprised if somewhere, he probably would never say because, it's none of our business, but it wouldn't surprise me if Fear of God Essentials probably ends up doing more business revenue-wise than mainline Fear of God. It wouldn't surprise me because legitimately I see it worn everywhere. Literally everywhere you see it worn, especially when it comes to like young kids or quote-unquote urban communities like myself. You definitely see it everywhere. So yeah, big up Jerry Lorenzo, absolutely smashing it out there. Big up Jerry Lorenzo. So I think that may be it for now. I can't think of anything else I need to quickly check on here. Let me just see if I just forgot anything on my list of topics here, but I think that may be it. I was speaking of most of it. Yeah, I think I've spoken on most of the stuff I wanted to speak on here, and I'll probably have to leave the rest of it for another time. But yeah, that has been the Agostinho ZINGA Show, episode number 652. I think it's 652. Hope you've had a good time here with me. Hope you've enjoyed the show and whatnot, and you've enjoyed the things I'm speaking about on here. If you have enjoyed it, then make sure if you're watching this video that you smash that like button down below. If you are listening to the audio version of the show, make sure that you share it. That'd be greatly appreciated. And of course, if you want more information regarding myself, you can find it all in the description wherever you're listening to, on a podcast platform, on a video. You'll see all my info that you need from me in the description there, and you can click it and contact me whenever you wish, and I'll be here ready and willing to answer all your lovely questions. But again, as per usual, thank you so much for joining me. It's a real pleasure to share some of my interest and some of my whatever it may be with some of you guys out there. Hopefully you will have enjoyed it. If you listen to the audio podcast, you will definitely hear my tune of the day coming in underneath as I'm speaking. If you listen to watching the video, you won't hear anything. It will just fade to black, and I'll see you guys again very, very soon. Take care and be safe, everybody. Peace.